next passage is the question is going to be about order of events. So we, of course, look at the passage, and this is what it looks like on your question paper. I'm going to go into it paragraph by paragraph. We go into the first two paragraphs plus the blurb. Of course, never forget to read the blurb. The following is extract from A.G. Gardner's collection of essay, Pebbles on the Shore. This one is called On a Distant View of a Pig. Okay, so it's going to be about some pig, is what you can immediately assume. The idea came to me while I was digging. I find that there is no occupation that stimulates thought more than digging if you choose your soil well. Well, so some idea has come to him, right? Digging in the London clay does not stimulate thought. So some assumptions as you can make that you can make as you read along. Digging in the London clay does not stimulate thought, it deadens thought, but in the light, porous soil of my garden, digging goes with a swing and a rhythm that set the thought singing like the birds. What is the assumption you can make? That the man is not in London, because he says his soil is not like the soil in London. So you could note that down. I'm just mentioning it here. Next, I feel I could win battles when I'm digging or write plays or lyrics. So what his impression or what digging does to him is what is mentioned here. Well, you can just make a note over there. It was in one of these prolific moments, because it just sets him thinking, that's what he's saying when he's digging, that I thought of the pig, right? So the pig is introduced at this point. Like all great ideas, there was something inevitable about it. He's thinking, what he's saying is, it was something very, I mean, it was bound to happen. The calculations of Leverrier and Adams proved the existence of Neptune before that orb was discovered. The other thing I would like to mention here is, as you see new words, I'm of course going to give you the meanings of some of them. But if you don't know the meaning of any word in any of the passages that you go through, please start writing them down. It's always going to be helpful. So the word orb just means a sphere. It is a planet, Neptune is a planet, and usually all planets are in the shape of spheres. So proved the existence of Neptune before that orb was discovered. They knew it was there before they found it. My pig was born without my knowledge. What he's saying, of course, is that the idea came to him before he even thought of thinking of the pig, right? So thought of the pig, but even before he thought of thinking of the pig. Next two paragraphs. In the midst of my digging, Jim Squire. Now, I would always again recommend just read the first two initials. JS, passing up the lane, had paused on the other side of the hedge to discuss last night's frost. Okay, so JS comes along. I straightened my back for a talk, and naturally, we talked about potatoes. So, naturally, we talked about potatoes. If he's made a statement about naturally we did something, generally you can expect an explanation as to why. Why did they talk about potatoes? Are they farmers? We need to look at that. If you want to get the best out of Jim Squire, you must touch him on potatoes. So there goes the reason. Why did they talk about potatoes? Because he knows that that's the only way to get Jim Squire to talk. You have to touch him on potatoes. There are some people who find Jim an unresponsive and suspicious yokel. A yokel, of course, you may not know the meaning. Don't let that stop you from reading on. But I'm just telling you what the meaning of yokel is. It's a country bumpkin, someone who is not very sophisticated, who seems to come from the country. Okay, so generally people think of him as an unresponsive because he doesn't respond to what you ask him, and suspicious because again he's not responding to your questions. That's because they do not know how to draw him out, mention potatoes or carrots or the best way of dealing with slugs or the right manure for a hotbed. And he simply flows with wisdom and urbanity. There. So you immediately guess, even if you didn't know what yokel meant, touching him on potatoes gets him flowing and flowing with wisdom and urbanity. So that means yokel would be someone who lacks wisdom and urbanity, that is lacking knowledge and sophistication. Generally, some of the meanings of the words can be gauged from the next few lines or the previous few lines. Moving on, of course. So here, what we learned was that the author thinks nicely of Jim Squire, but other people seem to think differently of him, and the fact that he touched him on potatoes. Right. Next paragraph. Well, you couldn't have too many potatoes these days, said Jim. Wonderful food they were for man and pig. A pig? Why not? And I straightened my back again. So the pig was mentioned a little earlier, and there is Jim JS mentioning the pig. I felt that something prodigious was taking shape. Prodigious usually means a large quantity, humongous, huge. So here, of course, suddenly he had just thought of the pig while he was digging, and then JS mentions pig. So he starts thinking something big is taking shape. My eye wandered across the orchard. So he's standing in an orchard. There were the hives standing in a row. Must be beehives. We don't know. No information. All we know is there are hives. And beyond the hives, three sheds. One for poultry, one for the hotbed for mushrooms. The third, why? The very thing. Concrete the floor and it would be a very palace for a pig. Right? So he starts thinking of the pig. JS mentions pigs and he starts thinking. I felt that something big was taking shape. You can underline, write around it, circle, whatever you feel. The last two paragraphs. Oh no, not yet. Somewhere in the middle we are. I took a turn up the garden to look this thing squarely in the face, and at the gate I saw the farmer's wife coming down the lane. So he'd moved down from there, and there he saw the farmer's wife coming. Again, you start thinking he is clearly not a farmer. He seems to have a small patch because he mentions Jim Squire as an expert in farming, and here he calls somebody else the farmer's wife. I mean, it could be JS's wife also. So it does look like he's not the farmer. These are the assumptions you can start making because nowhere is it so far stated that he's a farmer. We stopped and she talked about her cows, and then, as if echoing the very thought that was drumming in my head, about the litter of pigs she was expecting. Why? This was a conspiracy of circumstance, thought I. It seemed as though man and events alike were engaged in a plot to make me keep a pig. So it's like, when he meets the farmer's wife, it's like because she talks about the pigs, the whole world is conspiring to get him to think about keeping a pig. So you can underline it, right? Whatever. Moving on. With an air of idle curiosity, I encouraged the farmer's wife to talk on the thrilling theme, and she responded with enthusiasm. Well, you already know that the rest of it is going to be what she tells him about the pig. I would suggest that read it because you're always going to have enough time, but a quick read. The pig I found was a grossly maligned animal, a maligned one, that is, it has been given a bad name. I'm explaining everything here. Of course, if you haven't understood, just move on. At this point, it's something that the farmer's wife is describing about the pig. It had lain uncomplainingly under imputations and were foul slanders on its innocent and lovable character. And she clearly seems to like the pig. If you want the explanation as to what an imputation is, it's an accusation. That were foul slanders. When you make a statement about something wrong about someone, that's called a slander. Something that is not true about someone. So here he's saying that the farmer's wife says the poor pig is such a lovable and innocent character, and people make such accusations about it. Yes, lovable. She had had pigs who were as affectionate as any dog. And as for the charge of filthiness, who was to blame? We gave them dirty sties and then called them dirty pigs. But the pig was a clean animal, loved cleanliness, thrived on cleanliness. At this point, you can actually move on. You already know that she seems to have a very great opinion about pigs. All you can see, or if you can just glance down, she's saying they're innocent, they're affectionate, they're clean, and last, what a profitable animal. Even if you just underline those bits or just mark on the side that this is all about pigs. Details are not important, just read the adjectives that have been mentioned. Going to the last paragraph. I went indoors, filled with the vision of the transfigured pig, the affectionate, clean, intelligent pig. These are things the farmer's wife has just told him, and took up a paper, and the first thing my eye encountered was an article on the cottager's pig. Right. I read it with the frenzy of a new religion and rose filled to the brim with lore about the animal, to whose existence, except in the shape of bacon, I had been indifferent so long. I had not even thought of pig as an animal, except in the form of, of bacon that I eat. Suddenly, everywhere, wherever I looked, whoever I spoke to was talking about pigs. Right? So my head is full of pigs, is what he's saying. I had been so indifferent so long, and now, fully seized with the idea, it seemed that the world talked of nothing but pig. It was a patriotic duty to keep a pig. So it's more in that vein. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is this is about as much humor as you're going to see in any SAT passage. It's going to be very, very subtle. Of course, the author is being subtly funny. You know, there is the humor that this man is suddenly become infatuated with the idea of keeping a pig. And he was an ally in the war. I saw the whole German general staff turning pale at his name. So again, pig is the hero of the country. By nightfall, I could have held my own without shame or discredit in any company of pig dealers. He had so much knowledge about pigs. And the last thing, later. Now, the stars and then later I have ordered the pig clearly means there was a gap, and at some point he's gone and ordered the pig. So what is this last paragraph about? How he made up his mind because of this, that particular day when he's met the JS, he's met the farmer's wife. There's so many things which have been leading him to thinking of the pig. So he's all the adjectives and the things that induced him to buy the pig. And then we come to the question. Which of the following choices best describes the sequence of events described in the passage? The other thing I want to tell you on the SAT, whenever you see questions like this, you have to go by the order that is described in the passage, right? If in case it had been mentioned that he'd ordered the pig and then he had mentioned why he ordered it, the complete order changes. So please remember, stick to the order that it appears in the passage, not the chronological order that actually happened. Here, of course, it's that he meets JS, he's digging, he meets JS, talks about the pig, meets the farmer's wife, talks about the pig, reads a book again about the pig, and then he's decided somehow he needs to get a pig, and then he orders a pig. That's a sequence of events. Right, so let's look at the answer options. A, an epiphany leads to a decision and all the hurdles are overcome with sheer creative genius. Okay. A decision was made. Epiphany led to it. That is a sudden revelation or a realization. No, it's sort of built up, built up, built up. So that is not wrong. I have a problem with the epiphany bit and also all hurdles. Did we see any hurdles mentioned? No. So completely wrong. An idea is planted unwittingly by a yokel. Now, we have to be careful. Was the yokel, of course, is the character called Jim Squire, but was an idea planted by him? He had already started thinking about it. So I'm not happy with that half. Second part is saying further rumination results in a summary rejection. Rubbish. Easy to throw out. Recurring occurrence of an idea is countered. Recurring occurrence of an idea till there is good, then is countered by a logical discussion. That means it's opposed by a logical discussion with experts in the field. No, that didn't happen. Analysis of financial viability, none of this is there. So you can already throw it out. Don't assume D is the answer. Read it. A random thought is reinforced by a chance conversation. Yes, that happened. In fact, two chance conversations. Residual reservations are dissipated. That was with the farmer's wife. And during a conversation with an experienced person. And a decision is taken. Very good. Seems perfect. That's the answer.